यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका अपने अंदर तो डेमोक्रेसी चाहता है, लेकिन जिन कंट्रीज को कंट्रोल करना चाहता है उसमें डेमोक्रेसी नहीं चाहता है। जब भी कभी थोड़ी सी भी सेम्बलेंस पाकिस्तान के अंदर डेमोक्रेसी की आने लगती है तो यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स अनकंफर्टेबल हो जाता है। क्यों अनकंफर्टेबल हो जाता है? बल्क ऑफ द पीपल डोंट लाइक इन पाकिस्तान यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका।
मैं भी उनका स्वागत करता हूं, लेफ्टिनेंट कर्नल उमंग कोहली सर। What is brewing underneath it? Is there a bigger global game that is going on?
The day Israel went onto war with Hamas as well as Hezbollah thereafter, I am on record telling that this war will end in Iran. The ultimate war that has come out onto Iran, uske andar Israel is the main protagonist. It is for the first time two major superpowers, that is China and the United States, are helping our sworn enemy, that is Pakistan. United States siding with them. When the President of the United States gives due credence and acceptance to their field marshal, to their general who's not an elected leader, in itself gives some credence to Pakistani army, Pakistani armed forces that are radicalized to extent that they perforate terrorism day in and day out.
You can take a soldier out of the battlefield, but you cannot take the battle out of the soldier. आप एक फौजी को युद्ध के क्षेत्र से बाहर तो ले जा सकते हैं, पर इसके अंदर के योद्धा को कभी भी उससे बाहर नहीं ले जा सकते। मेरे आज के स्पेशल गेस्ट इसी कहावत को सार्थक भी करते हैं। लगभग 24 वर्ष के अपने आर्मी करियर में देश सेवा में निरत न जाने कितने काउंटर इंसर्जेंसी, काउंटर टेररिस्ट ऑपरेशंस में दहशतगर्दों को उनकी हुरों तक पहुंचाया। कश्मीर जैसे सेंसिटिव रीजन में पीस और स्टेबिलिटी के लिए कार्य किया, परंतु जितना असरदार और इंपॉर्टेंट काम वो वर्दी में रहकर करते थे, शायद उतना ही इंपैक्टफुल और जरूरी काम वो आज वर्दी के बाहर भी कर रहे हैं। डिफेंस इश्यूज पर, जियोपॉलिटिक्स पर अपनी कमेंट्रीज और अपने एनालिसिस के साथ सोशल मीडिया पर वो एक मुखर आवाज हैं, और उनकी इस ड्यूटी के लिए पूरा देश और साथ ही साथ सारे युवा यूथ उनकी सराहना करते हैं और उन्हें सलाम भी करते हैं। और आज उसी सलाम के साथ मैं भी उनका स्वागत करता हूं, लेफ्टिनेंट कर्नल उमंग कोहली सर।
थैंक यू ऋत्विक, आपने इतने अच्छे शब्द बोल दिए कि I'll have to live up to them. Thank you so very much.
Sir, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you on the Global Manthan podcast.
I feel privileged.
तो for the audience, ये जो एपिसोड है सर के साथ जो आज हमारी बातचीत होने जा रही है, दिस विल बी अबाउट जियोपॉलिटिक्स 101। हम बहुत सारे कंटेम्प्रेरी इश्यूज और कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स जैसे ईरान, यूएसए, इजराइल, रशिया, यूक्रेन और भारत से जुड़े कई सारे नेशनल सिक्योरिटी और डिफेंस टॉपिक्स पर भी बात करेंगे। तो सिट बैक, रिलैक्स, वीडियो को अभी लाइक कीजिए, चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कीजिए। यू आर वॉचिंग द ग्लोबल मंथन पॉडकास्ट। तो सर, जियोपॉलिटिक्स पर जब बात करते हैं, इट बिकम्स सच अ डिफिकल्ट थिंग वेयर टू स्टार्ट फ्रॉम, क्योंकि आज कोई किसी करवट सोता है तो सुबह उठ के देखते हैं तो समथिंग एल्स हैज ऑलरेडी अपीयर्ड ऑन द टेलीविजन, ऑन द न्यूज चैनल्स। बट द गुड थिंग इज, एंड व्हाई आई एम सो प्रिविलेज्ड टू हैव यू एज अ गेस्ट, जब आपका लिंक्डइन देखते हैं, जब आपके सोशल मीडिया पोस्ट्स हम देखते हैं, तो इट फील्स कि इट इज बेटर देन ब्रेकिंग न्यूज, क्योंकि जो चीज न्यूज पर हमें देखने को मिलती है, आई थिंक बिफोर दैट इट इज ऑलरेडी हैविंग अ कमेंट्री बाय यू। सो आई थिंक यू आर वेरी मच अपडेटेड, और आपके साथ इस बातचीत में बड़ा मजा आने वाला है।
थैंक यू।
तो आई विल स्टार्ट फ्रॉम द बेसिक्स, राइट। 2022 में रशिया यूक्रेन का कॉन्फ्लिक्ट स्टार्ट हुआ, 2023 में इजराइल हमास, एंड 2025 में वी हैड यूएस अगेन गोइंग ऑन अ फॉरवर्ड ऑफेंसिव अगेंस्ट ईरान। ये तो वो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स हैं जो बहुत विजिबल रहते हैं, जो सामने ऊपर ऊपर दिखते हैं। बट व्हाट इज ब्रूइंग अंडरनीथ इट? इज देयर अ बिगर ग्लोबल गेम दैट इज गोइंग ऑन? आपका क्या कहना है इस बारे में?
Absolutely. I think there is a bigger global game that's going on. And these three conflicts cannot be seen in isolation. These three conflicts are intertwined into each other. ये सारी की सारी जितनी भी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स हैं, ये सारी की सारी इंटरट्वाइंड हैं, एक दूसरे के साथ जुड़ी हुई हैं, ये अलग अलग नहीं देखी जा सकती हैं।
Right.
और एक अंडर करंट है जो कि वर्ल्ड के अंदर है, बहुत सारी इंस्टेबिलिटी, देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ इंस्टेबिलिटी दैट हैज कम आउट ऑन टू दिस वर्ल्ड नाउ. When you say that there was Russia-Ukraine war and then Hamas attacked Israel, and on 7th of October the war started between Hamas and Israel, which has grown into a big regional confrontation now, and even Iran has got involved and other countries are getting involved as well. I want to put forward a question to everyone, to the geopolitical analysts, as well as the youth of the country, as well as the international media and the journalist fraternity overall. Do you think, क्या आप ये सोचते हैं कि यूक्रेन वॉर और गाजा के अंदर जो अटैक हुआ उसका कोई संबंध नहीं है आपस में? मैं ये उनसे पूछना चाहता हूँ. There is a case in point, maybe I say, Russia and China did help plan Hamas this attack so that the attention could be diverted of the United States and the Western community, the entire European Union, towards Hamas, towards Iran, towards Israel.
Right.
And the focus shifts from Russia, Ukraine, and the support that they were giving to Ukraine gets diverted.
Right.
And that's what exactly happened. As soon as attack took place of Hamas onto Israel, which was a very, very well planned attack, by the way. They used drones, they used earth movers, they had specific intelligence as to what to do and how to do. They beat the Israeli forces and entered in. And it was a big failure of the CIA and Mossad and all the other intelligence.
Very big one.
Yeah,
I was surprised.
It was a big failure. But was it a success of KGB? Was it a success of intelligence agencies of Chinese? Has somebody researched as to what is the link between Hamas and the KGB? And what might have gone behind the scenes? Nobody has spoken about it. There is a fair bit of, I would say, not evidence, but there is a fair bit of conjecture, if I may put it that way,
Okay.
that there is a strong link between the forces in Iran and the Russian forces.
Okay.
And the Chinese forces.
Of course.
The Chinese forces have funded the Iranian forces in a fair bit manner. They have provided them technology. They have provided them the wherewithal to hit back. Iran, in return, has had its proxies, whether it be Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, or whatever. So these proxies made it a point that Israel was hit hard, and it was hit hard in such a way that the entire focus of the West, that is the European Union and America, shifted towards Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah, and that part of the globe.
Right.
This gave a fair bit of maneuverability to Russia. The oil exports from that area, obviously we all know what happened in Hormuz, and therefore most of the world became dependent on Russia and the sanctions went away. सारी की सारी फंडिंग जो जा रही थी पूरी की पूरी यूक्रेन को, वो एक तरह से रुक गई और वो सारी की सारी फंडिंग दोबारा से इजराइल की तरफ जाने लगी. सारे के सारे रिसोर्सेज जो यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स के जा रहे थे यूक्रेन को, वो सारे के सारे रिसोर्सेज डाइवर्ट होके गल्फ की तरफ चले गए. सारे के सारे रिसोर्सेज, इंटेलिजेंस, सैटेलाइट्स जो फोकस्ड थी यूक्रेन के ऊपर, रशिया के ऊपर और उनके ऊपर प्रेशर डाल रहे थे, वो सारे के सारे AI से रिलेटेड सब रिसोर्सेज पूरे के पूरे गल्फ रीजन के अंदर उसके बाद चले गए. और ये एक, आई एम ऑन रिकॉर्ड, द डे इजराइल वेंट ऑन टू वॉर विद हमास एज वेल एज हिजबुल्लाह देयर आफ्टर, I am on record telling that this war will end in Iran. I am on record saying it time and again that watch it within 6 to 7 months. It took about a year and a half, but I said that within 6 to 7 months this war will end in Iran. There were fair bit of concrete evidence that Iran was directly involved in the 7th October attack. And that is why they were just waiting for a fair some amount of time, that once they have sorted out Hezbollah and Hamas, then they are going to turn their attention towards Iran.
Right.
And that's what exactly US and Israel has done.
राइट, तो बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं आपका दैट all these things were connected. They cannot be seen in isolation.
They shouldn't be.
And more importantly, Hamas, Hezbollah, they everyone knows, and Houthis as well, कि ये वो militancies, ये वो terrorist organizations हैं which are completely backed and funded by Iran. So and I'm really glad कि आपने Hormuz mention करा, because that was actually the second thing that I had in mind to discuss. This is not just a war of attrition or a war of military capabilities. It is also something to do with the economic choke points, maritime choke points like Hormuz, Bab al-Mandab in the Red Sea. How do you see this? I mean, I struggle to call it a world war in that sense, but I cannot help but see कि ऐसा हो रहा है.
It is a multi-dimensional, multi-domain war in which there are basic military warfare is only 15 to 20% of it. The rest of the warfare is, if I may call it in a way, hybrid warfare, which involves various other domains as well.
Right.
Economic warfare may be another 20-25% of it. Then there is also cultural and social kind of a warfare.
Yeah.
Cultural and social warfare के ये जो है हिजाब पहनने के लिए बोल रहे हैं, और they have certain customs and traditions which are not conducive for humanity. That kind of. It's a legal battle as well. It's a humanitarian battle as well. It's a battle of perception, cognitive warfare as well. So it's a cyber warfare. It's a space warfare. It's in various domains that this battlefield is being fought. It is not only military and kinetic means, the missiles flying from one place to the other, but it is also all these domains in which this fight is taking place.
Right.
And when Iran tries to dominate all the other except the military, because the militarily, obviously, there is a superpower involved, which is the United States of America. But mind you, if I may say, in all the other forms of warfare, whether it be economic warfare, whether it be the cognitive warfare, or whether it be saving their own regime and putting the morale of the troops on the forefront, or whether it be the humanitarian grounds where they talk about 170 girls have been killed on the first day of the war itself.
Yeah.
In all these spheres of multi-domain warfare, Iran has had the upper hand. And that is why it keeps standing and it keeps rebutting whatever the President of the United States says every now and then.
Yeah, technology or information warfare that you said, it's
there has been a diplomatic warfare as well, in which Iran has had an upper hand. There are two other superpowers which have come out openly in support of Iran, China and Russia. Russia has clearly stated that we are not a silent spectator in this war, but we are on the side of Iran. China, on the other hand, has kept silent, but it has been giving a lot of technical inputs as well as the GPS signals, missile technology, and lots of other technology to Iran.
कल रात को ही, या कल हमारे लिए रात थी, बट यूएस ने, प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप ने सऊदीज के साथ एक न्यूक्लियर डील साइन करी with the caveat that they have to recognize Israel. How is this connected to the Iran war, and what difference can it make?
No, it's like I said, the war in the Gulf is very precarious in the sense that each country is linked with the other. The ultimate war that has come out onto Iran, uske andar Israel is the main protagonist. When the earlier MOU, the Islamabad MOU, as they say, was signed, Israel was kept out of it. Israel was not a part of it. And then when Israel put down its foot and said that this MOU will never be successful till the time we are put on board, then as an afterthought, President of the United States thought that the Abraham Accord should be made compulsory for all the Gulf nations. That is how it come. They wanted to involve Israel in the peace process. They wanted to give an impression that Israel has got something out of the war.
Right.
Something out of the war with Iran. Otherwise, Israel was coming out to be the ultimate loser. As far as Iran is concerned. Because not only the most of the Gulf countries went against Israel, but also economically Israel did not gain. And it came out to be loser because Israel was firing missiles after Iran was firing missiles after missiles onto Israel, and they incurred a lot of casualties.
Yeah.
तो उसको कवर अप करने के लिए किसी भी तरह से उन्होंने सोचा कि किसी तरह से इन्वॉल्व कर लें इजराइल को भी, एंड दे हैव समथिंग टू से विच इज हिस्टोरिक, एंड देयरफॉर आस्किंग ऑल द अरब नेशंस टू साइन द अब्राहम अकॉर्ड.
Right.
इनिशियली दे डिडंट एग्री.
No.
इस्लामाबाद एमओयू का भी एक पार्ट रखा था कि इसके अंदर पहले आप इब्राहिम अकॉर्ड साइन करिए. जब वो नहीं माने इब्राहिम अकॉर्ड साइन करने के लिए, वो तो पाकिस्तान को भी बोल रहे थे करने के लिए. सो नोबडी एग्रीड फॉर साइनिंग द इब्राहिम अकॉर्ड एंड accepting Israel as it is, a country with a sovereign right over a particular territory.
बिल्कुल.
That's what Abraham Accord is all about. To recognize a country which has a sovereign right on a particular territory, which they would earmark.
Yep.
So now अभी सारी की सारी गल्फ कंट्रीज वनरेबल हो गई हैं. यूएई भी उतना ही वनरेबल है जितना सऊदी अरेबिया है. इनफैक्ट यूएई इवन मोर. सो यूएई की वनरेबिलिटी इस करके भी ज्यादा है बिकॉज लॉट ऑफ प्रोग्रेस, वी ऑल नो दुबई एंड अदर प्लेसेस, देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ प्रोग्रेस दैट हैज टेकन प्लेस एंड लॉट ऑफ अमेरिकन मनी आल्सो हैज बीन पम्प्ड इनटू यूएई एज वेल एज सऊदी अरेबिया.
Right.
There are bases that the US has in both these countries. These are the major countries in the Gulf, rich countries in the Gulf. They have huge population also. They're not small countries like Bahrain, Kuwait, and the others.
They have a lot to lose.
Yeah, so they have the maximum to lose. So when they are unable to protect themselves, or they are not able to protect their sovereignty, so to say, or the missiles raining down onto their commercial projects or to the American bases, they lose out on investments.
Right.
They lose out on a lot of economic growth. When that happens, they are put in a situation where they want to be compensated for supporting the United States. So that compensation was to come as a nuclear deal.
Right.
But United States has again asked for a pound of flesh.
Yeah. Okay. सर, ये जो जियोपॉलिटिकल मेस जो फैला हुआ है, ये क्या किसी एक लीडर विदाउट टेकिंग द नेम, क्या उनकी वजह से फैला है या वास्तव में ये चीज होना ही था?
नाम लीजिए आप. प्रेसिडेंट ट्रम्प का नाम लेना चाहते हैं कि इज दिस पॉलिटिकल मेस एसोसिएटेड विद हिम? वेल, द पॉलिटिकल मेस एक्चुअली स्टार्टेड, जियोपॉलिटिकल मेस, in fact the war started before he was there. So both these wars actually really cannot be said that he's overall responsible. However, he's a very, very energetic man. He's an energetic man in the sense that he and then he believes in upmanship. He doesn't believe that other people can contribute too. He believes that his word is the final word and should be the final word, and it should be implemented. Though things don't happen that way in geopolitics.
Right.
In geopolitics, each person has their own constituency. हर एक की अपनी अपनी constituency है.
जी.
प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी की अपनी constituency है. मेलोनी की अपनी कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी है. यूके के प्राइम मिनिस्टर की अपनी कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी है. जर्मनी के प्राइम मिनिस्टर की अपनी कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी है. व्हेन ऑल दीज पीपल हैव टू एड्रेस देयर कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी एज वेल. सो अपमैनशिप in geopolitics does not work. It is a work of collaboration.
Right.
So each person, if they try to tell him कि नहीं, यूरोप ठीक से बिहेव नहीं कर रहा, यूके के अंदर ठीक से पॉलिटिक्स नहीं चल रही, जर्मनी के अंदर दे आर नॉट इम्प्लीमेंटिंग द पॉलिसीज प्रॉपरली, पोलैंड इज नॉट बिहेविंग, स्पेन इज नॉट बिहेविंग, गल्फ कंट्रीज आर नॉट बिहेविंग द वे दे शुड बिहेव, इंडिया शुड एक्ट इन अ डिफरेंट वे, दे शुड नॉट बाय ऑयल फ्रॉम हेयर और दे शुड बाय इट फ्रॉम देयर, एंड थिंग्स लाइक दैट. व्हेन यू स्टार्ट शोइंग upmanship to each and every leader who should actually be collaborating with you, that is the time then mess becomes murky.
Yeah.
So the mess was already there, but he's made it really murky.
Yeah. A beautiful analysis, sir. This is true. मतलब ये वो चीजें हैं जो न्यूज पे तो लोग देख लेते हैं, खुद सोचते भी हैं, but with experts like you, this becomes even clearer.
Right.
So thank you for your analysis. थोड़ा सा वर्ल्ड से लेकर अब इंडिया की तरफ आते हैं, क्योंकि इंडिया पर भी इसका बहुत गहरा असर पड़ता है और पड़ रहा है.
Absolutely.
What is the biggest challenge for India right now?
We are actually confronted with many challenges, not only militarily, but also economically and also in many other fields. And to name some of them, it is for the first time, I repeat, two major superpowers, that is China and the United States, are helping our sworn enemy, that is Pakistan.
Yeah.
पाकिस्तान एक ऐसा देश है जिसके साथ हमारे डिफरेंसेस इनहेरेंट हैं. हमारी पैदाइश से, यानी कि हमारी इंडिपेंडेंस से और पाकिस्तान की पैदाइश से जो डिफरेंसेस हैं वो डिफरेंसेस जाने वाले नहीं हैं। वो डिफरेंसेस सिर्फ टेरिटरी के डिफरेंसेस नहीं हैं, वो डिफरेंसेस मतभेद हैं, मन भेद हैं, और हमारे घाव बहुत गहरे हैं। और उन गहरे घावों को ना प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप समझते हैं और ना ही शायद चाइना समझता है। और चाइना इस समय पूरा का पूरा ऑप सिंदूर के अंदर हमने देखा, वी हैव ऑलरेडी सीन इट इन ऑपरेशन सिंदूर, ऑल द टेक्निकल assistance that was required to be given was given to was provided by China, and immediately after Operation Sindoor they had to eat a humble pie. Pakistanis had to eat a humble pie, और हमने उनको मिलिटरीली बुरी तरह से शिकस्त दी, उनको जो है चारों खाने चित कर दिया। However, जब इंफॉर्मेशन वॉरफेयर, डिप्लोमेटिक वॉरफेयर की बातचीत आई और ये बात ओपन डोमेन के अंदर डिस्कस करने की आई, यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स साइडिंग विद देम। When the president of the United States gives due credence and acceptance to their field marshal, to their general who's not an elected leader, and accepts him as the sole leader of Pakistan, that in itself gives some credence to Pakistani army, Pakistani armed forces that are radicalized to an extent that they perforate terrorism day in and day out. So इस तरह की एक रेडिकलाइज्ड आर्मी के चीफ को आप जो है मोस्ट पॉपुलर और मोस्ट पावरफुल फील्ड मार्शल, मोस्ट पावरफुल मैन इन द वर्ल्ड अगर बोले तो वो एक तरह से डिप्लोमेटिक हार है। और वो डिप्लोमेटिक हार हमारी यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स की मदद की वजह से हुई है। यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स हैज प्लेड अ मेजर रोल टू पुट पाकिस्तान ऑन अ पेडेस्टल। चाइना ने उनको मिलिटरीली हेल्प किया है और यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका ने उनको डिप्लोमेटिकली और इंफॉर्मेशन वॉरफेयर में हेल्प किया है। दिस इज एन ओपन सीक्रेट which people are not speaking about, but that's the truth.
Yeah, perhaps sir वो इसलिए भी नहीं बात करते हैं इस बारे में, it's an open secret but people don't like it because we did not leave any stone unturned to appease President Trump. Our Prime Minister was one of the first few people who met him after inauguration, but somehow I don't see where the interest for the United States lies to still help Pakistan, a country जिन्होंने उनके most wanted terrorists को कई साल तक वहां पे हार्बर किया था अपने मेन मिलिट्री बेस के जस्ट कुछ ही स्क्वायर किलोमीटर्स के दायरे में।
That is what I said. The president of the United States, President Trump, मैस तो पहले से ही थी। ऐसा नहीं है कि मैस नहीं थी between India and Pakistan. He's made it murky because of upmanship. Maybe he wants to do upmanship with Prime Minister Modi also, who's one of the most popular men in the world.
Yeah, he says that many times.
So he wants to have upmanship with him. So maybe he just wanted to put him in his place. Maybe the Prime Minister he apparently from outside says that he's my friend. But I don't know if he really finds him to be his friend. And what they have done is, I fail to understand, it could not be economic reasons and it could not be personal economic reasons. A state like Pakistan has nothing to offer to United States of America and the President of America personally. It could be some geopolitical interest that they might be having already. They might have plans as far as Iran is concerned. They might have plan as far as Afghanistan is concerned. हो सकता है कि उसकी geopolitical location जो थी, उसकी geostrategic location जो है वो पाकिस्तान की इसकी वजह से, क्योंकि वो प्रेशर डालना चाहते थे ईरान के ऊपर, वो प्रेशर डालना चाहते थे अफगानिस्तान के ऊपर, इस करके हो सकता है उन्होंने सपोर्ट कर दिया। या फिर वो अपमैनशिप, पर्सनल ट्रेट्स इस तरह के हैं और वो प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी को लाइक नहीं करते और प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी ने उनकी ईगो जो है वो मसाज नहीं की, उनके वो जो है उसके बाद कॉल नहीं किया ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के बाद। उन्होंने अपमैनशिप दिखाने की कोशिश की कि मैंने सीज फायर करवा दिया। वो अपमैनशिप जब उन्होंने दिखाई कि मैंने सीज फायर करा दिया, इट मेड्स द मैटर्स मर्की एंड मोर मर्की।
Right. Sir, this is true. Actually, this is food for thought. हम strategic autonomy की बात करते हैं diplomatically, right? That we work, India works in its own interest. We do not, cater to one camp or the other. Now, that's the positive side of it. The negative side of it is कि when we need help, so we should not also expect countries to help and we saw this after Op Sindoor, जो optics की अगर हम बात करते हैं, even in European nations, इवन इन, और मैं तो ये भी नहीं समझ पाता कि वेस्ट में so-called, मतलब India is the only democracy, functioning large democracy in Asia. Despite that, जो वेस्ट की जो डेमोक्रेटिक कंट्रीज हैं उन्हें और खासकर यूएस को पाकिस्तान के साथ ज़्यादा कॉमनैलिटी मिलती है बजाय इसके कि एक डेमोक्रेटिक नेशन जैसे इंडिया है उनके साथ. सो व्हाई डोंट दे हेल्प despite the fact that on the outside they support.
I will be very blunt with you, and I will be very forthright with you. Let's speak about it bluntly.
Yeah.
Most of the Muslim world does not have democracy. So when we talk about various countries in the Gulf, and which are Islamic, they call themselves, some of them call themselves Islamic republics, and some of them call themselves Islamic states, and not even republic.
Yeah.
Most of them, whether it be whether it be Saudi Arabia, whether it be Pakistan, whether it be Bahrain, whether it be many other countries, they're not democratic countries. These are rulers which have been there for many years. In fact, in the past, Saddam Hussein initially had lots of support from the United States of America. They created him, and then thereafter, once he didn't toe their line, they dispensed off with him. So that's what they've been doing. They find it easier to control the autocratic regimes. They find it easier to have a control over a democracy. आपको बाहर से कंट्रोल करना बहुत मुश्किल है. और इंडिया जैसी डेमोक्रेसी जो इतनी बड़ी डेमोक्रेसी है जिसके अंदर 1.4 बिलियन लोग रहते हैं, हर एक 7-8 किलोमीटर के ऊपर लैंग्वेज चेंज हो जाती है, उसके ऊपर कंट्रोल पाना बहुत ही मुश्किल काम है. एक ऑटोक्रेटिकली कंट्रोल लीड की हुई कंट्री जो कि छोटी है उसके ऊपर कब्जा करना और उसके ऊपर कॉलोनाइज करना बहुत आसान है. तो यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका अपने अंदर तो डेमोक्रेसी चाहता है, लेकिन जिन कंट्रीज को कंट्रोल करना चाहता है उसमें डेमोक्रेसी नहीं चाहता है.
राइट. क्योंकि ये हमने हिस्टोरिकल पैटर्न देखा है. US even when let's say the Shah was the leader of Iran, he was not a democratic leader. He was installed after Mohammad Mossadegh was deposed in a coup, and then
I say in the end, not only here, everywhere, they have been very uncomfortable, particularly in the Muslim world. They have been very uncomfortable with democracies there.
Yeah.
So even when there is some semblance of, let us say, even in Pakistan, with the various, जब भी कभी थोड़ी सी भी semblance पाकिस्तान के अंदर डेमोक्रेसी की आने लगती है तो यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स अनकंफर्टेबल हो जाता है. क्यों अनकंफर्टेबल हो जाता है? बल्क ऑफ द पीपल डोंट लाइक इन पाकिस्तान यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका. सो जब डेमोक्रेसी टू डेमोक्रेसी आती है तो नेचुरली नेगेटिव फीलिंग्स यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स के लिए स्टेट पॉलिसी में दिखने लगती हैं. जब स्टेट पॉलिसी में उनको नेगेटिव पॉलिसीज दिखने लगती हैं तो वो उसको हटा के मिलिट्री लीडर को जो है वो चुक दे. तो वही उन्होंने किया. जब इमरान खान ने कुछ उन्होंने करनी शुरू की है, समथिंग ही स्टार्टेड एक्टिंग इन द against the interests of the United States of America, they made sure that he is sacked and he is put behind the bars, and they have now started giving undue importance to the chief of the army staff.
Yeah, that's true. और इसमें एक पेंच और भी आता है. The fact is कि पाकिस्तान, जैसे आपने कहा, हैज नथिंग टू ऑफर. देयर वाज सम सेम्बलेंस, एंड आई थिंक जो अभी जेल में इमरान खान बैठे हैं, जो फॉर्मर प्राइम मिनिस्टर हैं पाकिस्तान के, उन्होंने ये बात ओपन में आके कह दी थी. एंड दैट्स वेयर यू सॉ कि जिस बंदे को मिलिट्री ने सपोर्ट करके पाकिस्तान का प्राइम मिनिस्टर बनाया था, वही मिलिट्री एक नए आसिम मुनीर जो इनके जनरल हैं उनके साथ, और फील्ड मार्शल, दैट हैज चेंज्ड. अब जो गवर्नमेंट वहां पे है, और मैं तो ये भी कहूंगा कि ये डीप स्टेट टू डीप स्टेट कनेक्शन भी होने लग गया, कि जो पाकिस्तान की जो सो कॉल्ड डीप स्टेट है वो यूएस की डीप स्टेट के साथ अब अलाइन करती है.
There has been a US alignment with the deep state of Pakistan for a very long time, not only now.
Yeah.
There has been half-hearted negotiations as well as investigation into the Mumbai attacks, in which David Coleman Headley was found, and thereafter he has been retained in the United States. People say that he has been involved with the CIA. There have been lots of other elements which are double agents. The Pakistani ISI has double agents in the CIA. The CIA has double agents in ISI. They work and coordinate with each other. So there has always been a deep state that has been deeply embedded in fact, why go for the deep state? There is a strong apprehension that US has bases in Pakistan which are not being disclosed. There are air bases also in Pakistan, and maybe India touched one of those bases during Operation Sindoor, and that's why USA got jitters.
Noor Khan,
Yeah,
command and control.
maybe that one or somewhere else, whatever. But some base, maybe somewhere there was bombed by India, not knowing that US is also sitting there, and that gave them jitters.
Maybe we also knew, but हमने उसको call out करा कि आप भी इसको support करना चाहते हैं, and that's
No, I wouldn't go that far because we have had in the past some good relationship with the United States as well. We have some military coordination and intelligence coordination also. We are not an enemy state to the United States of America. We have been friendly state with United States of America. In fact, a lot of collaboration as far as military as well on diplomatic fronts has been carried out by India, and which is not clandestine like they have it with Pakistan, which is out there in the open, duly ratified by their Congress and duly understood and recognized by our parliament. We've also had a nuclear deal with the US long ago, and it has been duly ratified by Congress and our parliament. So these kind of things, if we were to do something or we were to bomb a particular place and we knew that there could be US presence there, we would well inform them in advance.
Right. सर यूएस और यूरोप में कुछ सिस्टेमिक फेलियर्स भी हैं, थोड़ी सी उस बारे में भी बात करते हैं. वाई? बिकॉज आई फील कि ये कहीं ना कहीं वो ग्लोबल इश्यूज हैं जो मॉडर्न और कंटेम्प्रेरी जियोपॉलिटिक्स पे असर डालते हैं. मैं खुद यूरोप में रहा अपनी पढ़ाई के दौरान, और मैंने एक चीज़ नोटिस करी कि वहाँ पर जो मास माइग्रेशन है वो, और अनडॉक्यूमेंटेड इलीगल इमिग्रेशन, मैं लीगल इमिग्रेशन की बात नहीं कर रहा, दैट इज़ ऑन अ डिफरेंट स्केल. एंड कहीं ना कहीं जो वो मास इमिग्रेशन होता गया वो डायस्पोरा ही बना, वो एसिमिलेट नहीं हुआ लोकल पॉपुलेशन के साथ, एंड दे आर सफरिंग कॉन्सिक्वेंसेज ऑफ इट. इससे डील करने का क्या तरीका है और कहां तक आपको लगता है कि ये भी जियोपॉलिटिक्स पर असर डालता है?
Who's suffering these consequences? The diaspora, that is the diaspora, or the countries that are hosting the diaspora?
They are the hosts.
The countries that are hosting the diaspora obviously have had a very terrible impact of the illegal immigration, whether it be from India or any other part of the world. And a lot of immigration has taken place from the Asian countries. Obviously, किसी भी कंट्री के अंदर इलीगल इमिग्रेशन होगी, वो इंडिया के अंदर भी अगर इलीगल इमिग्रेशन अगर हो रही है तो उसके एडवर्स और बैड कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस हमें और लोकल पॉपुलेशन को भुगतने पड़ते हैं, चाहे वो पाकिस्तानी हो या जो है बांग्लादेशी हो, नेपाली हो, या इस तरह की इमिग्रेशन जो इलीगल है, अनडॉक्यूमेंटेड है, एंड दे हैव बिकम पार्ट ऑफ द इंडियन इकोसिस्टम, हैज एडवर्सली इफेक्टेड अस. एंड इफ दे स्टार्ट वोटिंग आल्सो, तब तो बहुत ही ज्यादा it becomes a real big problem. So what has happened in Europe is that bulk of the jobs that has been taken by these illegal immigrants into various places in Europe as well as in the United States has adversely affected. And it has actually made their laws much more stringent, and it has given a bad name to our country. And we needed to crack down on illegal immigration on our own. हमें अपनी कंट्री से हो रही इलीगल इमिग्रेशन के ऊपर वक्त रहते काम करना चाहिए था, और बहुत ज़्यादा करना चाहिए था. हमने शायद उतना नहीं किया, और अभी वक्त रहते हमारे को और ज़्यादा इसके ऊपर क्रैकडाउन करना चाहिए. And all syndicates that facilitate this kind of illegal immigration, whether it be in the European Union or in the United States of America or in any part of the country, illegal remains illegal, and we should not facilitate it or turn a blind eye towards it. It should not start from here, because it gives a bad name to our country, it gives a bad name to our passport.
Yeah, definitely. सर, हमने ग्लोबल पॉलिटिक्स के, जियो पॉलिटिक्स के बारे में बात करी, इंडिया की डिफेंस स्ट्रैटेजी के बारे में. एक लास्ट क्वेश्चन में, मैं इसको क्वेश्चन भी नहीं कहूंगा, लेट्स डू अ वेरी फन एक्टिविटी. आपने स्वॉट एनालिसिस का तो नाम सुना ही होगा. तो इंडिया का स्वॉट एनालिसिस करते हैं कंटेम्प्रेरी जियोपॉलिटिक्स के इस गेम में, राइट? लेट्स टॉक अबाउट स्ट्रेंथ, वीकनेसेस, अपॉर्चुनिटीज एंड थ्रेट्स.
वाओ, दिस इज अ न्यू वन.
हाँ, तो सर इंडिया की स्ट्रेंथ्स थोड़ी सी पहले इस पे बात करते हैं. Yes.
India has a huge population, which has a youth population which is extremely talented. And if you want to specifically talk about military, then we have this kind of a diverse population which is patriotic, which is nationalist, and which is ready to give their all for the country.
Right.
So when we have no dearth of people who want to join the armed forces, and our strength from the population is immense. The second strength is our training. Third strength is that we are adequately, the second strength is that we are adequately trained. In fact, overtrained at times, we would say. The battle-hardened forces that we have, because we have fought terrorism in various places, whether it be Northeast or in Jammu and Kashmir, the troops are battle-hardened. They are mountain-hardened. They have seen how battles are to be fought. So any army or armed forces which are not battle-hardened like China, and when they come into a mountain warfare with us, we have the capability to give them a bloody nose. So that's how, as far as the human resource is concerned, we have adequate human resource, and we can train them. We have trained them better. So the human resource, one part of it. Now we talk about military technology. As far as military technology is concerned, innovation has been hard to find by from the indigenous sources. For example, I will talk about, let us say, drones and anti-drone systems. Still, a large number of parts that are being used in drones and anti-drone systems is Chinese or from other countries, and we have not been able to develop them. However, at the same time, there are other military technologies that we are fast developing, and they are indigenous and good. We are excellent as far as space technology is concerned. We are excellent as far as now missile technology is concerned. We are excellent as far as the shipbuilding capabilities is concerned. Our shipbuilding industry is coming up in a major way, and it is really going to change the scenario as far as Indian Navy is concerned in the years to come.
Right.
We need to work on the we'll talk subsequently about it. So this is the strength as far as technology is concerned into the armed forces.
Right.
Now, once we have spoken about the human resource and we have spoken about technology, let's talk about military strategy and the politics and the geopolitics and how well we are placed and the armed forces are placed in that way. We have terrific collaborations with various armies of the world. We do joint exercises with various armies of the world. Our collaboration with even the US Army or even with the Russian armed forces, which are two adversaries of each other, are fabulous. There was a survey conducted in Russia recently, and which is the most where they asked that which is the most friendly country, which are the two most friendly countries of Russia, and which are the two most countries which they feel threatened by in Russia. So Russians named the two most countries which they were threatened by were France was to top the list. And France is one of the most friendly countries with India.
Oh, yeah,
with India.
exactly.
Yeah. So, and when it was asked in India, which was the most country they are threatened by, and everybody named China. That is the country we are most threatened by. And when it was asked in Russia, which is the country which they are most friendly with, they said it's China. So you see, India is a country which has very good relationships with France as well as Russia. They don't see eye to eye with each other, but we are friendly with them. Right. So our militaries have drawn a lot from both the West and the East. Both the groups, our equipment is such finely placed that we have the best from the West and we have the best from the Russian kitty. And we are able to take on any bloc if it is confronted, if it needs to be confronted. Yeah. So these are the strengths that we have.
Yeah. So strengths की बात करी, weaknesses यानी challenge areas कहाँ पर आपको दिखते हैं?
Like I said, I've already pointed out some of the challenges. In fact, they're not challenges, some of the threats that I will speak about. So the threats remains that हमारे जो है हमारा एक immediate neighbor is a superpower, and it is a technological as well as military superpower as well. It does not have good intentions towards us. China has clearly made its intentions clear. It has got a proxy to fight us, that is Pakistan. It uses Pakistan to shape the regional balance so that we don't confront it. So we have two adversaries that are sharing a border with us. We have a very, very large border with Pakistan and China, and that is a very big threat to us.
Yes.
So this threat remains. Now talking about the weaknesses that we have, and the weaknesses are that Yes, the technological innovation has not taken place as much as it should have taken place. We still don't have the engines for our aeroplanes. Our Air Force needs an equipment uplift immediately. We also required a lot of amphibious equipment so that we can take care of China if need be, because their navy is quite strong.
Right.
Then there are other weaknesses of which are related with the system. Inherently with the forces, whether it be related with threatization, whether it be related with synergy of all the three forces, whether it be related with threatization and such like stuff.
Right.
Then human resource related weaknesses also remain. The Agniveer, as per me, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि अग्निवीर जो योजना है वो कोई अच्छी नहीं है कन्वेंशनली फाइटिंग वॉर उसके लिए। ये हमारे लिए एक वीकनेस हो सकती है इन द फ्यूचर, दो इट इज येट टू प्ले आउट। मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि रिटेंशन ऑफ जवान्स 75% होना चाहिए, 25% नहीं होना चाहिए। और 50 से नीचे तो किसी भी हालत में नहीं होना चाहिए। दीज पीपल आर देयर विद एक्सपीरियंस। अब जिन्होंने ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के अंदर एक्सपीरियंस गेन किया है, क्या आप उनको जाने देंगे? वो मायने लगाते रहे, वो एडी इक्विपमेंट हैंडल करते रहे, अभी सिविल में जाके मायने तो लगाएंगे नहीं और एडी इक्विपमेंट तो करेंगे नहीं। और हमारा तो ऑपरेशन सिंदूर अभी चल रहा है और ऑपरेशन सिंदूर 2 में उनकी जब जरूरत पड़ेगी तो आप उनको सीवी स्ट्रीट में इधर उधर घूमते हुए पाए जाएंगे। आप देखेंगे कि वो कहीं जंतर मंतर पे घूम रहे हैं उस समय डंडे लेके, तो ऐसा तो फिर चलेगा नहीं। So, maybe part of CRPF. I'm not saying that डंडे लेके इधर उधर, so maybe not as parts of the movement of the Gen Z movement, but they might be part of. They say they'll give them 50% reservation in CRPF or in the police or other places, and they might be just handling us, with sticks, handling. Standing at Jantar Mantar, rather than handling the AD equipment or the air defense equipment, fighting the Pakistani drones on which they were trained for. So I don't know if that is a good human resource management by the government. So that remains a weakness. So human resource management needs to improve.
Sir, very beautifully put. Opportunities की जब हम बात करते हैं, and here I would rather keep it as a tease for the further discussion that we will have. Opportunities में, do you see territorial ambitions as well? Or rather, let's say, हम नाम लेकर बात करते हैं, POJK, Balochistan. Are these opportunities or no?
They are not opportunities, they are inherently ours. Not Balochistan, but Pakistan occupied Kashmir. It's our duty and an obligation. When Raja Hari Singh signed the Treaty of Accession with India, he signed the Treaty of Accession for the entire territory. It was the illegal occupation of Pakistani forces as well as some Mujahid or whatever they call them, or tribals or some those people who they recruited and they sent into India. And that territory was illegally occupied. Now the people of that place, don't they have the right to vote? India is a democratic country and they were ceded to India. उनके राजा ने उनके साथ एक कमिटमेंट किया। वो राजा हरि सिंह की प्रजा थे और उनके राजे ने हमारे साथ, हमने उनको एक कमिटमेंट दिया कि हम उनकी सॉवरेनिटी को प्रोटेक्ट करेंगे, हम उनके लोगों को प्रोटेक्ट करेंगे। इंडियन यूनियन ने राजा हरि सिंह को एक आश्वासन दिया, एश्योरेंस दिया कि ये जो प्रजा है इसकी प्रोटेक्शन करना हमारी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी होगी, इनका पालन पोषण करना हमारी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी होगी। इट इज वेरी इजी टू से कि नहीं वो मुस्लिम पॉपुलेशन है, हमने उनको लेके क्या करना, वो ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट कर देंगे, ये कर देंगे। जब एक यूनियन किसी राजा के साथ एक ट्रीटी ऑफ एक्सेशन साइन करती है, हम उस ट्रीटी ऑफ एक्सेशन को होल हार्टेडली मानते हैं, रिस्पेक्ट करते हैं और उसी के बेसिस के ऊपर हम जो हैं, ऑक्यूपेशनल फोर्स नहीं है हम कश्मीर के अंदर, हमारा जो है लेजिटिमेट राइट है ऑन जम्मू एंड कश्मीर, द एंटायर एरिया ऑफ इट एंड इट्स पॉपुलेशन। उस पॉपुलेशन की डेमोक्रेटिक राइट्स के वो वोट कर सके, उस पॉपुलेशन को रीजनेबल ह्यूमन डिग्निटी देना हमारा मॉरल ऑब्लिगेशन है एंड दैट मॉरल ऑब्लिगेशन स्टैंड्स ऑन अस। इट्स अ पॉइंट ऑफ कंसर्न दैट मॉरल ऑब्लिगेशन हमने पिछले 75 साल से पूरा नहीं किया है एंड दैट मॉरल ऑब्लिगेशन नीड्स टू बी मेट whether it is to be met diplomatically right now, whether it is to be morally support that population that has been by force taken away from us, not only the territory but also the population. Very clearly it has to be mentioned, and we can't backtrack on half the promises. We gave an promise to Raja Hari Singh कि हम उनकी population का as well as उनकी territory का यूनियन ऑफ इंडिया के अंदर एसिमिलेशन करते हैं हम पूरा का पूरा, एंड वी वर नॉट एबल टू डिफेंड दैट पर्टिकुलर टेरिटरी एट दैट टाइम. दैट टेरिटरी रिमेन्स आर्स, दोज पीपल रिमेन आर्स.
ब्यूटीफुल सर. ऑन दैट नोट आई वुड से कि हम इस पार्ट को और अपनी इस कॉन्वर्सेशन को कंक्लूड करते हैं. रीज़न बीइंग कि हम जो अभी हमने लास्ट जो बात करी अबाउट दिस पॉपुलेशन, दिस टेरिटरी बीइंग आर्स, अब हम उसी को मैग्नीफाई करके अगले पार्ट में बात करेंगे. So thank you so much for taking this time out for us.
Thank you. Thanks.
And to the audience, stay tuned to the Global Manthan podcast. लेफ्टिनेंट कर्नल उमंग कोहली सर के साथ ये बातचीत आगे भी जारी रहेगी.